Welcome to the Blackstone-Millville Regional Agreement Amendment Committee's informational town hall. My name is Sarah Williams. I'm a school committee representative from Blackstone and chair of this subcommittee. We as a committee have proposed several changes to the regional agreement, and they are available on the BMR website for your review. So I'm going to keep this intro short and get right to the Q&A. This forum is an opportunity for the community to ask questions about the proposed amendments. The goal of the changes put forth by the subcommittee focus on two priorities. First, bringing the agreement up to date and into compliance with current laws and regulations. And second, ensuring that the agreement provides equitable learning opportunities for students throughout the district. I anticipate that the bulk of tonight's forum will deal with questions around the proposed student placement process. So before we start, I want to reiterate what we've discussed in previous meetings. The amended agreement will not automatically result in changes to student placement. The new language only creates a process by which the administration can begin analyzing district options. It establishes language that governs the decision-making process for the school committee and the administration. This is not a radical idea. Most regional school districts follow a similar process for student placement, with the school committee, after a public process and hearing, voting on the recommendation of the superintendent. It will be a new process for BMR, and it will allow for much needed flexibility to respond to changing demographics and ensure that we are operating in the most efficient, most effective capacity possible. With that, I thank everyone for tuning in, and now I will hand it over to our MC and superintendent, Dr. Jason DeFalco.
Thanks, Sarah. Good evening, everybody. Again, I'm Jason DeFalco, Superintendent of Schools here in BMR, and just want to welcome everyone that's tuning in this evening. We are very excited to be following up from last week's Facebook live stream that we did, where we had an opportunity to go through the recommended changes to our regional agreement, again, that governing document. And as we move our way through this evening's virtual town hall, we just want to thank everybody for their patience as we continue to navigate this new landscape. It's a little bit different for us, so you might see a little bit of a few hiccups along the way. And for those that we've already had a chance to connect with and redirect over to our Facebook Live page, again, thank you so much for your patience with that. We're really looking forward to hearing from you this evening. You know, the idea behind this was to have a Facebook live stream last week, review the amended or recommended amended changes to the agreement, give folks an opportunity to kind of marinate with those, sit with them, think about them, and then to, loop back to another forum, our town hall tonight, to answer whatever questions you may have had over the past week, or those that maybe, bubble up this evening as you're listening in either again or for the first time. And again, I just want to reiterate something that Sarah said. We know that the major issue or topic that's on the minds of a lot of folks is the idea of, grade level assignments and school assignments and who's going where. And, really just want to underscore the fact that our regional agreement is a governing document. It is not an operational document. It's not a document that's going to outline the answers to those questions, but what it will do is, in fact, outline a process that will allow for a very transparent and open dialogue over a said amount of time, followed by a public hearing and a subsequent vote by the school committee if any changes in assignments in terms of grades and buildings and those kinds of things would happen. It's not a document that's going to answer, where would my kid go? Well, your kid is going to go to the school they go to right now. What is in the document is a recommended process that would allow us to study that. So I just wanted to underscore again, I know Sarah mentioned it earlier, and we know it's on the minds of many individuals. But with that, I'll conclude my opening remarks here, and we can turn it over to questions. And it looks like we have a caller in, Angela. but we're just waiting on the question itself.
Oh, she's going to ask it.
Oh, good. Perfect. Angela, whenever you're queued up and ready.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Oh, thanks for having me. Can I just ask the question now?
Please, yeah, the floor is all yours.
Okay.
Just waiting on the question itself.
Okay. In regards to the, okay.
Can you please lower your audio in the background?
Oh, sure. Yep. Hold on. Let me just. Okay. So in regards to the preschool, will the children be attending all day?
Oh, so that's a great question. So that actually isn't necessarily related to our regional agreement. We offer pre-K now, and we do offer an opportunity for parents to have their child participate in full day pre-K. If that's something you're interested in, I would ask you to contact Christina Schaefer. She's the principal at Millville Elementary School, and she can give you a hand with that.
Oh, okay. Because I thought the regional agreement was to include preschool.
I think I see what you're asking. What we were actually doing with that language was changing the agreement to match what we're actually doing right now. So right now we offer pre-K. It's just not in our current regional agreement. So that was one of those cases where we were just trying to bring it up to date.
Okay, so I'm just talking to you right now?
We're all on it, but yeah, you can ask.
Okay. So this doesn't have to do with the proposal of all-day preschool, and I'm sorry, not all day, but for the whole town to be included in almost like a new preschool, like.
No, that's an excellent question. No, this was just to bring it up to date with what our current practice is. That was a good question, actually.
Okay. All right. So that the proposition of preschool being combined with two towns all day, that's something else, you're saying?
Jane?
So thanks again for your question. So the preschool is currently run and will continue to be run exactly as it is. It's while it's a part of the district, our current regional agreement technically doesn't allow us to have governance over it. So adding it into the agreement allows administration of the preschool. We've been doing it, but we haven't had the authority to do it. So this gives us the authority to have administrative responsibility for the preschool. But this is not in any form, again, this regional agreement document is not an operational document. So it doesn't deal with the operation. That's still under the guise of the principal and the superintendent and the leadership team and the preschool teachers who create that preschool program and the multiple days and the charges and the cost. It comes to the school committee as well as part of policy. But in terms of operations, this agreement does not deal with that. It just deals with the fact that we need to show that we do operate a preschool program.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, that takes care of a couple of my questions. I'm concerned with if the regionalization of the two towns. Now, is that part of the preliminary regional agreement, or am I not reading it right?
So, and I know Mike wants to answer as well, but so Blackstone, Millville, the two towns, are a regional school district. They are a regional school district from grades kindergarten through 12th grade. What that means is that they are their own government agency. The school committee is its own government agency. We have our own policies, we have our own bylaws, we operate as a unit, just like the town hall does, or just like a city hall. If you had a city hall, we have our own policies and procedures. So we already are regional from that perspective. What is different about this agreement, and one of the amendments that we are looking to change, is that the current agreement says that students in grade K through 5 are to be educated in the schools within their towns. So in other words, if you live in Millville, you have to go to Millville Elementary School. If you live in Blackstone, you have to go to JFK AFM. We are looking for the flexibility to be able to look at, plan, see what the best fit is for all students regardless of town. We don't have a plan for that yet. The agreement would only give us the flexibility to plan.
Okay. So you don't have a projection of what schools they'll use for which grades?
No.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do you have a
we're just looking for a language in the agreement that would actually allow us to go through a process to study that.
Okay. So if the language in the agreement allows for that process, whose hands is it in to okay that process? Is that going to go to a vote, or is that the vote to give the school committee the ability to decipher what they're going to do with the 2 schools, in this case 3?
So what the proposed language in the agreement, and that's a really good question. Thank you for asking that. What the proposed language in the agreement does is creates a process that would be led by administration. That would be a very public process, discussion, study that would go forward to the school committee after a public forum and public hearing with the community. And then the school committee would have an opportunity to either send administration back to make some changes or adjustments or revisions, would have an opportunity to vote it down, or would have an opportunity to approve it. It would require a 2/3 approval to pass.
Okay, but that's just only the 2/3 of the school committee, not the people of the town.
That's right, of the school committee. The school committee is elected to represent the people of the town.
Okay. Will they take in consideration things like bus rides, parent pickups? Because my concern is that at the time it'll happen, I still have one. I'm really afraid that by having to go to 2 different schools to drop off kids at 2 different schools, I'm really afraid of the bus rides being 45 minutes long. And I feel that's a long time to be on a bus for a kid.
Yeah, I think my sense is, and I don't know if the committee members on want to speak to that, but my sense is that the committee would, as we're studying this, look at all components of that, from transportation to everything. I mean, I think it all has to be studied and reviewed.
Jane, if I could, just to follow up on that a little bit, in the regional agreement was first written in 1967, so 52 years ago. It's been updated along the way several times, but this is the first time in the 52 years that a whole top to bottom review has been conducted. Much has changed in education over the last 50 years. And actually, the safeguards we've placed in this review regarding student placement is pretty significant. Maybe some folks listening in will recall being a resident of Blackstone and going to the Millville Elementary School in the late 90s because of overcrowding in the Blackstone complex. And that was all done by vote of the town meeting that allowed the school committee and the superintendent of schools at the time, Mr. Chakey, to make that decision. There was no really review. There was no analysis done. And I think that this review here really safeguards the students and the communities to do the right thing for everyone. So I really hope you really understand that this review committee has taken quite a bit of time to review those issues that are very important to all parents. Thank you, Justin. Jason.
Sure.
Okay.
Did that answer your?
Yeah, it does. So basically, all we vote on is whether or not to give the school committee the ability to make the decisions. Is that correct?
Yeah, Jane, go ahead. You're muted, Jane. Jane, you're muted. Sorry, one moment.
That's my fault. So bottom line, if you're looking for a bottom line, yes, you would give the school committee the authority to make the decision about where children are educated through the process of review, which is exactly what the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education recommended when they created the concept of regional agreements and when they changed the regional agreement guidelines with education reform in 1995. That's exactly the authority that they said that school committees should have, that's the responsibility of the committee through advice and the research of the superintendent. We took that a little farther to try to meld what we have now with just complete authority to the school committee and said it will take review and public hearing. So the public would have the opportunity. I mean, if there were enough, parents or there were great concerns or it just didn't make sense, there's an opportunity for review. And the school committee would have to do its due diligence as well. Just because the superintendent says it's a great idea, the school committee doesn't always agree with the superintendent, and they don't always agree with every community member. Not every community member agrees with every community member, but the school committee is elected by the community members, and the direction that the school committee takes it is supposed to be for the best interest of all of the students in the district for a fair and equitable education. And I think to a person on this current committee, committees change, but on this current committee and this current superintendent is to do exactly that with the voice of community members. And so we're not saying people have no voice, but we're saying the ultimate responsibility, yes, would lie with the school committee, which was intended by the Department of Ed when they created regional agreements, or regional districts.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
And just to weigh in, our assistant superintendent is messaging in the chat, and he just wanted to make sure that everybody understood clearly that we will be doing a thorough review and analysis of all the bus routes when we study this, whatever this would be, to make sure that this scenario that the parent that was just on with us mentioned does not occur. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, she's still there. I wasn't sure if you hung up or not.
No, thank you.
Are there any other questions? I know while we're waiting, we had, since our last meeting, quite a few questions actually kind of bubbled up through email and phone calls and conversations with community members. And so Tara or Sarah or Jane or any of the other members, I don't know if maybe we want to throw some of the questions out that we were getting since the last meeting. Perhaps they're on the minds of some of our listeners this evening, and that might find that some of this and other information really helpful.
Sure.
Yeah.
I can take, one of the questions was regarding our super seniors, the section around that. And what that is allowing a fifth year, which we also are, is called the super senior, a fifth year student looking to gain or improve high school credentials to continue to BMR for that purpose. It would allow the district to charge appropriate tuition in such a case. The student would only be accepted into a program if if there was space available in the program. And typically these students are recent graduates who want to raise their GPA before entering college, or a student who may have started a career path program like advanced manufacturing, and they would like to finish the program.
So I know that was an issue that had come up a couple times. Folks weren't entirely sure, what that term super senior meant. So I appreciate Tara. Thank you for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Other questions?
I can take another question.
Great.
Unless we have a caller.
I think we do.
Oh, well then, I will wait.
Maybe we don't.
No, we don't.
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, there was a question about.
Whoop.
Nope, you froze there.
The new unique experience to all of us. There was a question about whether or not these amendments that are being proposed can be changed on the town floor. And the answer to that is no, they cannot. Since the amendments are presented in their entirety, they have to be voted on that. And the reason is amendments to a regional agreement in any town that has a regional school district are approved and first put to the towns by the school committee. So if there were a change made on the floor, it would not be an amendment that was approved by the school committee. That would be part number one. And the other two, because there are multiple towns, in our case, because there are two towns, anything that was changed in one town wouldn't be what the people are that would be voting in the other town. And if the second group that had their meeting changed something, the first group would have already voted on something different. And you could see how that could go back and forth ad infinitum and keep going and going. So what is being proposed and what was voted on by the school committee is what will be contained in the warrant and will need to be voted on as it is written and as it's available to you, either in the town hall, hopefully at the town libraries if they ever reopen, or when they reopen, I should say when they reopen, and also is available on the BMRSD.net website, right? Bold on the top, it says regional agreement.
Mary Beth, you had a question too.
Wait, Jason?
Oh, yes. Yep.
If I could add to what Jane just said, another reason for it not being able to be modified on town meeting floor, this has to be approved by the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. We have been communicating, the committee has, with them all along, and they have basically signed off on the agreement that the school committee now has voted on. So when that goes to the town meeting, if there were a change, that would mean that not only the school committee wouldn't have approved it, but the Department of Education would not have also.
Good point.
Thank you for the clarity around that, Mac. Mary Beth, you had a question as well. It looks like maybe came your way. Do you want me to read it out or do you want to share it?
I can share it. We'll see if I won't freeze. One of the questions that was brought to me is what happens if this does not pass? Will all of these legal changes that we had to make, what will happen? Will our regionalization agreement be legal or not legal because we haven't made the correct changes that the DOE asked?
Great question. Mac, let me introduce Mac to folks just so those watching know. Mac is one of our lead consultants that we are partnering with from the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools. And so, Mac, that's probably a great question for you to
Okay.
You vote it up, you vote it up, or if you vote it down, you vote it down. How does that work?
That is a good question, Mary Beth. Also, if just one town votes it down and one town votes for it, it does not pass. That would mean you would revert to your current regional agreement. Technically, there would be things in there that are not legal, but I don't believe that the Department of Education would follow up on that at this time. They would have expectations that the school committee would look at the issues that caused it to be voted down, perhaps make some changes and bring it back to the communities to vote. So you would have to go back to your current regional agreement. And as I said, there would be things that would not be legal in there, but your regional agreement would continue to be in force.
Thanks for the clarity on that, Mac. Mary Beth, does that answer your question to?
Yes. Yep.
What were some of the other questions that came along in between the last two meetings? I know there were a few more than what we've shared already.
There was one, I'm afraid to talk now because I might freeze. There was one about what happens if one of the towns wants to withdraw from the district.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What does occur in that situation? Jane?
Okay. Sarah, do you want to take it? Either you can take it if you'd like.
Let's have you do this one.
Okay. So Blackstone Millville is a 2-town regional school district. So if one town voted either in its town meeting or its board of selectmen or however they wanted to withdraw from the district, they would have to bring forth an amendment to the school committee. The school committee and that town would then have to essentially develop a plan for withdrawal, but the school committee would still have to accept it. So only amendments to the regional agreement have to go through a school committee vote. So the school committee, the eight members would have to agree, but 2/3 to take that to the town floor. And then that request for withdrawal with the plan to withdraw, like who covers what expenses, who's responsible for our friend OPEB, who's responsible for any shared buildings, all would have to be in that amended plan that was accepted by the school committee, and then that would go to both towns. Again, it would have to be accepted by both towns. So if one town wants to withdraw, it has to be accepted by both towns. And essentially, because we are a 2-town district, if one withdraws, they're really not withdrawing from the district. It's really a dissolution of the district. There would be no more, you can't have a 1-town region. So it would be to dissolve. The amendment would essentially be to dissolve the region, not to withdraw from it.
Okay. So the headline there is if one town pulls out and it's approved all the way, there is no there is no region. But it sounds like there's a fairly descriptive process in the regional agreement that outlines.
Right. It's not like one town could just say we quit. There's a lengthy legal process they'd have to go through.
Excellent. One of the questions that actually came across a couple of emails that I received, and I don't know if others got it, but how is this document amended? What was the process? I don't know if Sarah, you as the chair, if you want to talk a little bit about that and how we kind of walked through this, or Mac as our head consultant, if you want to get into that, or one of the other members, it might be helpful for the community to hear the process we've gone through, any of the preliminary approvals we have, to date, and kind of where we stand with that. That might be helpful. You're muted.
You're muted, Sarah.
Yeah, Mac, I was gonna punt it to you anyway, Mac. Do you want to handle this one?
Sure. What the regulations by the Department of Education require is that a group of people get together and walk through the current regional agreement. And in this case, your school committee put together an excellent committee. It was made up of selectmen from each town, finance committee from each town, parents from each town, and community members from each town. And that group started meeting at least monthly back in last June. So they've been meeting actually for a whole year. It was a very good group. They looked at all of the issues in the current agreement, and there were sort of 3 different things that they were looking for. They were looking to see what has changed in the laws, as Mike said, in the last 52 years. they looked at what has changed from the Department of Education, their regulations. And thirdly, they looked at what is really the practice going on in BMR right now. And are there things that should be rewritten in the agreement that conform to how things are working right now? So the committee went through every detail of the agreement. A couple of the basic things they did not change in terms of the school committee, and also in terms of the assessments to the towns and how that works. There were no changes to how the towns are assessed for the regional budget. But otherwise, they looked at everything and they brought it up to date so it's legal, so it meets regulations from the Department of Education, and also it conforms to how you're doing right now. So this group met a number of times. The group had a meeting with the select boards and of both towns and the finance committees from both towns. And we got a lot of feedback from that. A number of changes were made in wording as a result of that meeting. There has been feedback as the committee members who are select board people and finance committee members went back to their committees, talked with them about what this committee was doing. Again, discussions, changes were made. So there's been a lot of back and forth over this past year. And then we started asking the Department of Education to review it. They made a number of suggestions, which this committee has made. And so we think that it's pretty much legal now, and it fits with what it conforms to what the district is doing. And but this committee worked very hard. I've worked on about 15 of these committees, and I can say that this is one of the best committees that I've worked with. They were very conscientious, very concerned. They worked collegially to negotiate things and work things out. So it was a year-long process, and they did an excellent job.
Thanks for that, Mac. I appreciate the overview. And I think folks at home probably really appreciated hearing a little bit about just the review process in a more kind of detailed manner and where we stand with that. So that's really helpful. Jane.
Jason, I just got a question on my phone. Somebody thought we were actually voting tonight and wanted to know, when does this actually come to a vote in the towns?
It's a great question. So, and I don't know if you want to answer that, that's fine, or. No,
go ahead.
So we're working with both of our communities now on that, and it's looking like we are thinking at this point, and Peter, you're actually here, which is good, but our town of Millville, we think we'll be voting on June 22nd at the annual town meeting. I'm getting a head nod, a thumbs up, so it looks like we're moving full steam ahead with Millville taking their vote on June 22nd. And we are working with the town of Blackstone to coordinate our vote with them at a special town meeting that will be very, very early in the fall. We're hoping for just after Labor Day.
Right, so for Millville, just as you say, Jason, we currently have town meeting scheduled for June 22nd. That could change, of course, but this is we've had a placeholder for your warrant article, and so far I've heard no reason to not proceed. So that's the plan right now.
Thanks, Peter. Anything else? I checked in with Jesse. It doesn't seem as though we had anybody on Facebook asking any questions. And I think I don't know if you had other questions that have bubbled up. I think we covered the ones that we've got so far. Nope, Jesse said no more callers, and we don't have any more questions. So I don't know if the committee has anything else they want to add, or any other questions, Jane, kind of like you got that just popped up on your phone. If anybody is watching this,
yeah,
want to make sure to give everybody time that they need. And so I think as we prepare to wrap up then our virtual town hall, it's important to note that we will continue to get information out, take questions in, and try to turn those questions around. We're certainly open to suggestions and ideas and other ways to try to engage our communities. But as Max said, we have been very hard at work at this for about a year, and we've done a lot of community conversations. We've had discussions at school committee, conversations with meetings between the boards of selectmen in both towns and finance subcommittee for both towns. So my hope is that some of the quiet is just the fact that we've been able to really communicate this and try to stay ahead of it. So I would just encourage anybody, please don't hesitate to ask questions. As Jane mentioned, on our district webpage, you'll see a regional agreement link right there at the top of our webpage. Please click that. You'll find our existing document, the new document with any changes identified right in red so you can see it. You can certainly email or outreach any one of us on the committee. We're here to answer any questions you might have, and we'll keep the communication flowing until it comes to the time where we vote. I don't know if anyone else for the committee has any questions or last pieces of information as we close.
I just wanted to thank everyone who's been involved with the committee, representatives from both towns, our parents, our community members, our consultants, our administrators. It's been a long but hopefully fruitful process. So thank you.
All right.
Thanks to everyone that participated and took time to review this. And stay safe.
Stay safe.
Absolutely.
Stay healthy.
Okay. Thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Take care.